3 winters ago, I started keeping a notebook of every kitchen scrap I tried to regrow on my windowsill, and what I found surprised me. Out of everything I tested, exactly 12 scraps came back reliably enough that I'd stake a harvest on them. Not a leaf or two for show, real, usable food. So today I'm walking you through all 12, ranked from the easiest to the one that genuinely changed how I shop for groceries. We'll work our way from number 12 down to number 1, where I'll show you the single scrap that gave me more food per square inch than anything else in my test. Most people throw that one straight in the compost. Stay with me to the end because I think it'll change your mind. Now, let me tell you how I narrowed this down, because I did not just grab a few scraps that looked promising. For 3 winters straight, I kept a notebook on my kitchen windowsill, and every scrap I tried went into a glass or a jar with a date next to it and a simple note. Did it come back or did it not? The records don't lie. Out of everything I logged, only 12 came back reliably enough that I'd stake real food on them. Not a leaf or two for show, usable food. So here's the structure. We are going ranked, ascending, starting at number 12, which is so easy it is almost cheating. All the way down to number 1, the single scrap that gave me more food per square inch than anything else I tested. Most people throw that one straight in the compost. Stay with me, because the cheap, easy ones at the top are what build the skill that makes the number 1 winner pay off. And every one of these is free food, rescued from the trash. Number 12, the scallion, the green onion. This is the one I tell everybody to start with, because it is so easy it almost feels like a trick. You buy a bunch, you cook with the green tops, and instead of throwing out that little white root end, you cut about an inch up from the roots and stand it in a glass of water on the windowsill. That is it. In my notebook, those root ends push new green growth in 5 to 7 days every single time. No exceptions logged in 3 winters. I got 3, sometimes 4, cuttings off a single root end before it thinned out and lost its vigor. Now, this is not going to feed a family on its own. But for a free garnish that regrows faster than anything else I tested, it earns its spot at number 12, and it teaches you the basic move. Get comfortable with the water glass here, because the next one uses the exact same method, just slower. Number 11, the leek. A leek is really just a scallion's bigger, more patient cousin, and it regrows the same way the scallion does at number 12, only it makes you wait for it. I set the trimmed root bases in a shallow dish of water, maybe half an inch deep, and where the scallion sprinted, the leek strolled. My notes say it took right around 2 weeks before I saw real new growth from the center. The difference is, once it gets going, you want to move it out of the water and into a pot of soil to let it actually bulk up. In water alone, it just keeps making thin green shoots. In soil, it starts to build a usable base again. It is not a fast win, but it is a reliable one, and reliability is the whole reason these 12 made the list. Speaking of patience paying off, the next one rewards you with a part of the plant most people have already thrown in the trash. Number 10, celery. I will be honest with you, the first time I tried this, I expected a gimmick. And what I got surprised me. You take the bottom inch or 2 of the celery bunch, the part you always cut off and toss, and you set it cut side up in a shallow dish of water. Within about 10 days, new stalks start pushing right up out of the center. Now here is the key, and this is where most people quit too early. If you leave it in water, all you get is a small leafy tuft. If you transplant that base into soil once the center growth appears, it keeps going and gives you full-size stalks over the next couple of months. The plant is in there. You just have to feed it real ground to finish the job. That distinction, water for show versus soil for food, is going to come up again with the next one, except this time I have to be straight with you about its limits. Number 9, romaine lettuce. The base of a romaine heart regrows fast. I will give it that. Set the cut bottom in a little water, and you will see new leaves coming from the center inside a week. But here is where my notebook earns its keep, because I have to flag this one honestly. It will not reform a full head of lettuce. It just won't. What you get is a flush of small, tender inner leaves you harvest as cut and come again baby greens. So this is a salad topper, not a head of lettuce. If you go in expecting a whole romaine head off your windowsill, you will be disappointed. And I would rather tell you that now than have you log a failure in your own notes. As a steady little supply of baby leaves, though, it delivers, and that honest line between real food and a leaf for show matters even more on the next one. Number 8, bok choy. If the Remain at number 9 left you wanting more, bok choy is the cool season windowsill win that pays you back faster. I set the cut base in water the same way, and within just a few days, the centre starts regrowing, quick enough that it surprised me the first season I logged it. Move it to soil, and it keeps producing usable leaves for weeks. Now, I will tell you what it eventually does, because the records show it every time. It will bolt, meaning it sends up a flower stalk and tries to go to seed, especially as things warm up. But even after it bolts, those leaves stay perfectly usable in a stir fry or a soup. So you get a long runway of free greens before it calls it quits. That is a real harvest, not a token. The next one shifts us out of the water glass entirely, because some scraps just do better with their feet in the dirt. Number 7, garlic. Here is a surprising one. That clove in the back of the pantry that has sprouted a little green shoot, the one you would normally toss, plant it. But unlike the scallion at number 12, garlic does not want a water glass, it wants soil. I push a sprouted clove about an inch down into a pot, pointy end up, and what comes up is a flush of garlic greens. They taste like a milder, gentler scallion, and you snip them the same way. Now, I want to be honest about what you are getting. You're not going to grow a fat new head of garlic on a windowsill in a few weeks. That takes a full season in the ground. What you get fast is the greens, and the greens alone are worth the clove you were about to throw away. My notes show a single sprouted clove giving me cuttings of greens for the better part of a month. It is the same principle as the scallion, just rerooted into soil because that is where garlic is happiest. The next one is the one I get the most disbelief about, because people assume you are regrowing a part of the plant that you simply are not. Number 6, carrot tops. Here is where I have to be straight with you, because this is the one that gets oversold more than any other scrap out there. You take the top inch of a carrot, the part with the little stub of green, set it in a shallow dish of water, and within a few days it pushes out fresh, ferny growth. That part is real. What is not real is the idea that you're growing a new carrot. You are not. The carrot is the root, and once you have sliced it off, that root is gone. It will never come back. What comes back is the greens, and the greens are genuinely useful. They are ferny. They taste somewhere between parsley and celery leaf, and I chop them right into stalks and use them like an herb. Let one keep going, and it will throw up flowers that the pollinators in my beds work all day long. My notebook graded this one as partial, not a full pass, for exactly that reason. It is real food, but it is leaf food, not root food, and I want you walking in with clear eyes. The next one I tested almost on a whim, and it turned into a plant I have now had going for years. Number 5, lemongrass. I almost did not bother testing this one because I assumed a grocery store stalk would be too dried out to do anything. I was wrong. I took a stalk from the produce aisle, trimmed the top, and stood the base in about an inch of water on the windowsill. In roughly 2 weeks, it had pushed out a tangle of white roots. I potted it up, and that single stalk did something none of the leafy scraps managed. It multiplied. One stalk became a clump, and that clump has been feeding me lemongrass for the better part of 3 years now. I cut what I need, it grows right back. And every spring it comes up bigger than the year before. For real usable food per dollar spent, this one scored near the top of my notebook. A stalk costs $1 or $2 and gives you a multi-year supply, which is exactly the kind of return that made me start ranking these in the first place. It wants warmth and it sulks if it gets cold. So down here in the foothills, I bring the pot inside over winter. The next one is the cheapest, fastest herb on the whole list, and I would argue the best deal of all 12. Number 4, basil and mint cuttings. This is the one I point every new gardener toward first, because the return is almost comical. You take a stem cutting, not the root, just a 4-inch piece of stem, strip the lower leaves off, and stand it in a glass of water. Basil roots for me in 7 to 10 days. Mint is even faster and, frankly, a little aggressive about it. Once those roots are an inch long, you pot it up, and you have got a full plant. Here's the math that put it this high. One $3 bunch of basil from the store has maybe a dozen usable stems in it. Each one of those stems can become its own plant. I have turned a single bunch I bought for cooking into more basil than my wife and I could use all summer, with cuttings left over for the neighbours. It is the same water glass method as the scallion back at number 12, just with a soft stem instead of a root end. For pure cost effectiveness, nothing else on this list beats it. The next one asks for something none of the others do: patience, and it really tests whether you believe in this. Number 3, ginger. Everything up to now has rewarded you in days or a couple of weeks. Ginger does not. This is the patience crop. You want a plump knob with a visible growth bud. One of those little nubs that looks like it is about to sprout. I half bury it shallow, bud pointing up, in a wide pot of loose soil, and then I wait and wait. It can sit there for weeks before the first green shoot breaks the surface, and it takes months to bulk up into anything. But here is what my notebook recorded. Each knob I planted multiplied into a bigger hand than the one I started with. You are not regrowing the same piece. You are growing it into more. And the best ginger I ever started came from a knob that was already sprouting on my counter, the kind most people look at, decide has gone bad and throw straight out. Hold that thought, because the number 1 scrap on this list starts the exact same way, as a grocery item people are certain has spoiled. The next one is the heavyweight, the scrap that returns more raw poundage than anything else except the winner. Number 2, the sprouted potato. We have all had it happen. You reach into the bag at the back of the pantry and find a potato gone soft, putting out pale, knobby sprouts. Most people toss it. I plant it. You cut it into chunks, making sure each chunk has at least 1 or 2 of those sprouting eyes. Let the cut faces dry for a day so they do not rot in the ground, and bury them. The return per plant is the biggest on this whole list by weight. One forgotten sprouted potato cut into 3 or 4 pieces can give you several pounds of new potatoes by the end of the season. In terms of pure food rescued from the trash, nothing I tested came close, except one. And I want to be honest with you, because this is the whole reason I bothered ranking these. As good as that sprouted potato is, when I weighed everything out in my notebook, the number 1 scrap beat it on food per square inch of original material. The potato needs a whole chunk to make a single plant. The winner makes plant after plant after plant from one piece. Before I show you which one, let me pause for just a second. Now, before we keep going, I want to share something with you. Getting a scrap to root is only half the job. Turning that rooted slip into real harvest weight comes down to feeding it on a schedule. And that is exactly the gap most home gardeners leave open. That is Chapter 5 of my book, Steve's 30-Day Maximum Yield Protocol. The 3-phase feeding calendar: establishment, flowering, and fruiting, with a timeline diagram showing what to feed at each stage. If you are past wondering whether things will grow and squarely into getting more out of what you already have, that is exactly who I wrote it for. It is $17 at stevesgardenbooks.com. If you're watching on your television, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. Take your time pulling it up. I will be right here. And if you're on a phone or laptop, the link is sitting in the description. Number 1, the sweet potato. And I mean a very specific sweet potato. The soft, wrinkled one, the one with little purple or green buds already pushing out of its skin, the one most people take one look at and throw straight in the compost because they are sure it has gone bad. That is the single most productive scrap I tested across 3 winters of notes, and it is not close. Here is what I did. I took one sweet potato, a 79-cent sweet potato from the grocery store, and I suspended it over a jar of water on the windowsill, holding it up with a few toothpicks so the bottom third sat in the water. You can also lay it half buried in a tray of damp soil, which works just as well. Then I waited, and I watched. Over the following weeks, that one tuber pushed out leafy shoots all over its surface. Those shoots are called slips. My notebook recorded 13 slips off that single potato. Now here is the part that genuinely changed how I shop for groceries. Each one of those 13 slips snaps right off the parent tuber. You stand the snapped slip in a glass of water, and in about a week, it grows its own roots. At that point, it is not a shoot anymore. It is a whole plant. ready for the ground. One slip becomes one sweet potato plant, and one plant returns several pounds come harvest. Do the math the way I did in my notebook. Every other scrap on this list gives you back roughly what you put in. The scallion regrows a scallion. The potato chunk makes one plant. This one tuber made 13 plants per square inch of the original scrap. Nothing else I tested came within shouting distance. That single 79-cent potato, the one headed for the compost bin, filled an entire bed for me and returned tens of pounds of sweet potatoes that fall. This is exactly why I set the standard back at the start. Real, usable food, not a leaf or two for show. The scallion is a fine, easy win. But the sweet potato is the one that made me stop, look at my grocery cart a little differently, and start setting the sad, sprouting ones on the windowsill instead of in the trash. All right, before I let you go. The only reason I can rank these 12 for you with any confidence is that I wrote down what every single one actually returned. 13 slips here, 3 pounds there, instead of trusting my memory. That habit is the whole heart of Chapter 2 of Steve's 30-day maximum yield protocol, the measurement foundation. With a simple record-keeping template diagram you can copy into a notebook of your own. It is the same system behind my 22 years of garden records, and it is what turns vague gardening advice into the specific numbers you actually want. It is $17 at stevesgardenbooks.com. If you're on the big screen, go ahead and grab your phone and scan the QR code now. No rush, I will wait. And if you're on a phone or laptop, the link is right there in the description. So those are the 12 kitchen scraps I'd actually stake a harvest on, from the scallion root ends at number 12 all the way down to that wrinkled, sprouting sweet potato at number 1 that most people drop straight in the compost. Every one of them came off my windowsill, out of my notebook, after 3 winters of pass and fail, testing in water glasses and jars. Here is what I'd do tonight. Cut the white root end off a scallion, an inch of it, set it in a glass of water on a sunny sill, and watch it come back in 5 to 7 days. That's your first win. Then work your way up the list until you're suspending a sweet potato over a jar and pulling slips. Now, your conditions might be different. Your light, your water, your kitchen temperature. So test what makes sense on your own windowsill before you commit to it. If those sweet potato slips get you excited, I've got a whole video on growing them out into a full bed, and I'll point you to it. All right, that's what I have for you today. I'll see you in the next one.